of would be great, thank you. And we are now recording. So my name is Jensen Luke Matar. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the director of the trans program of Mississippi. And essentially we do all things trans, all things to serve the trans and non-binary community of Mississippi. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off now to another one of our organization representatives. Let's go with Mickey.
Hey everyone, my name is Mickey Stratos. My pronouns are they, them, and I work with the Spectrum Center of Hattiesburg. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to McKenna.
Hi, I'm McKenna Rainey Gray. My pronouns are she, her. I'm with the ACLU of Mississippi as the LGBTQ staff attorney, and I'm going to bounce to Rob Hill.
Hey, Rob Hill, he, him. I'm the state director for the Human Rights Campaign in Mississippi. Oh, and I will bounce it to Adam.
Hey, it's great to see everyone. This is Adam Pulaski. I use he, him, and I am the communications director of the Campaign for Southern Equality. I'm seeing some questions in the chat about the media, and I think I appreciate you sharing that you are a part of the media. If anyone else is from the press, if you could also just chat me, we can talk about what we would hope to the majority of this will be a community conversation, and so I just want to be able to have a conversation with you offline, so we can chat directly, and I will pass it to Ivy.
Hey y'all, my name is Ivy. I use they, them pronouns. I am the Southern Health Initiative Gender Justice Director with the Campaign for Southern Equality. And excited to be here with y'all this evening. I will throw things over to Jess.
Thank you. My name is Jess Manriquez. I work with the Immigrant Alliance for Justice and Equity, and I hold down the queer and trans work. I just want to send a reminder to everyone to speak slowly since we have an interpreter.
All right, did we get everybody on our organizing team, on our coalition? Okay, great. Thank you all. So the purpose of this town hall is to discuss the soon to be passage of HB 1125. And we're going to dig into that bill and what it is, what it means, when we expect it to pass, some legal information around that. We're going to talk about some immediate steps that the community ought to take in response to this. We're going to hear from several of the individuals who just introduced themselves. They're all community leaders with the various organizations they mentioned. We're going to talk a little bit about support, because support is needed always. But I would say especially right now. You know, this is a pretty devastating situation we're dealing with, and we're trying to be as smart as we can about it, as supportive as we can. You do have support. We're all feeling it. If you're feeling it, we're feeling it. We're all feeling it. We're family here. We love you. You're not alone. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the support options we've identified. And I'll speak for myself right now. Each and every one of you is more than welcome, if not encouraged, to reach out to me personally at any time. I'm never too busy. We're also going to talk about some action items, some upcoming activities, ways you can get involved around this and beyond. And then we're going to leave, really, we're going to try to leave the second half, I would say, of this town hall for discussion. We want to hear from you. We want to hear about how you're feeling, about how you, how this bill is impacting you already. Anything really you'd like to share surrounding everything I just mentioned, surrounding the situation. So that's going to be it from me for now. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to McKenna Rainey Gray with the ACLU to give us a descriptor on what HB 1125 is.
Cool. And hi, as Jensen said, I'm McKenna Rainey Gray. If you hear shrieking, it is my small child in a different room, so do not be alarmed. I'm going to tell you a little bit about House Bill 1125, which is unfortunately called the Regulate Experimental Adolescent Procedures Act. We all know that that terminology is intentionally inflammatory, but that's what it's called. The definitions section says that it only applies to people who are under 18. It's a civil ban on gender affirming care for people under 18. So the bulk of it says that people are not permitted to provide gender transition procedures is the terminology that they use. And that includes puberty blockers, hormone treatments, surgeries, even if surgeries are not currently happening in Mississippi, it would be impermissible. And it also says that you're not permitted to aid and abet in the performance of gender transition procedures for people under 18 in Mississippi. There's an exception for intersex individuals. It is not super clear in that exception, but the intention of the legislature was that people with verifiable intersex conditions, and that's not the terminology that they use, but people with sexual, what I can't remember the phrase, we don't use anymore, but if people are identified at birth as having some sort of disorder of sexual development, DSD, then they are not excluded from these kinds of procedures and medical treatments when they are adolescents. So they're, in addition to, please speak slower. Is that about me? Sorry, Exie. There's also a public funds prohibition, so that even if this, so the procedures would not be permissible. Why do you need a public funds prohibition? And that's because if this law got challenged in court and it was found to be unconstitutional, they still want there to be a public funds prohibition so that in the future, even if these kinds of procedures are permitted to continue going forward, you would not be able to have funds from the state of Mississippi going towards these. Similarly, there's a Medicaid prohibition, and the enforcement mechanism is that medical providers who do this kind of medical treatment will have their medical license revoked. There's also a section on the Attorney General being able to enforce this through a civil lawsuit. And it says that anyone can bring a lawsuit to enforce this. So that's kind of the mechanism of how you can have a civil ban without criminal liability. So you would have a civil lawsuit that would open you to damages. The worst part to me is that this bill is set to be effective immediately. So in Utah, I believe they've also had an effective immediately ban that has gone into effect. In Tennessee, they're considering a ban that will go into effect a few months after it is voted on and approved by the legislature and the governor. So in Mississippi, if this is signed next week, then it is in effect next week. I think that's the gist of what it is that I wanted to go over. So I'm going to remind Rob that you have some things that you wanted to talk about in the advocacy and legislation space. And I'm also around to ask questions in the Q&A part.
So this is my part. Yeah, so right now the bill is 203 on the calendar. So we don't know if they may, they could always suspend the rules and bring this bill up, but there's definitely going to be an attempt to amend this bill to make it less worse. And so there is that going on, but yeah, it's what we saw on the House side, they fast tracked this bill, sent it over to the Senate side. And so, we it's hard to get into all of this, but anyway, this bill could come up at any point. They could suspend the rules and bring this bill up, and there's a high likelihood that they would. But there will be an attempt to amend it to make it less worse. So anyway, we're working right now to see what we can do to keep this bill from being as bad as it already is, because it's a pretty severe bill. But anyway, I'm having a rough time, I'll be honest with you all, mentally, and so I appreciate your understanding that this has been a very challenging time for me, because we've been able to kill this bill for the last 4 years. But unfortunately this year, it's different given that it's an election year. And so the Lieutenant Governor obviously wants to stay to the right of anybody who is his opponent. And that person right now is Chris McDaniel, who's a very conservative person. So that's where we are. I've talked to my lobbyist today, and we don't anticipate that it's coming up before next week, but I believe half of what I hear. So anyway, so that's kind of where we are legislatively.
Thanks, Rob. So I see a question in here right now, and I know we're gonna take questions at the end. But this might be something we want to address as a part of this piece. Youth visiting from out of town, and then the other way around, right? So if trans youth from Mississippi were seeking services out of the state, can we touch on that?
I can give it a go. So the rule is a Mississippi rule, so it will cover everything within the state and the territory of Mississippi, which means that if you go to a different state and receive care that is permissible there, Mississippi is not saying you can't do that. The flip of that is if you come from a place where you are allowed to receive care and you come to Mississippi, you cannot receive it while you are in Mississippi. I think that's the simplest way to explain it.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Thank you, McKenna. Okay, so let's discuss some ways to prepare, some immediate steps that we might be able to take. Can I pass it to you, Ivy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that this is heavy stuff and it's scary stuff for a lot of folks. And so, one of the things I want to really encourage folks to do is take time to take care of yourself, check on your folks, your friends, that I know might not feel like one of the most urgent things to do, but is really incredibly important to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and each other, and really leaning in to support each other as we, look at all this stuff. So, and I'll share some resources here too, but please, please do that, and feel free to reach out to any of us if you need support or connection to therapists or mental health support. All that is very important right now. Some other concrete things that folks can do right now in preparation in the event that the bill does pass. One is see your current care provider as soon as possible. So if you don't already have an appointment scheduled, but you are on blockers or HRT and, under 18 are going to be impacted by this bill, do what you can to get an appointment as quickly as possible with your provider. Also, if you have prescriptions that are up for refill, you're going to go ahead and get those refilled as quickly as possible and for as long as you can. So a lot of providers will write those for 3 months. I know testosterone is a controlled substance, I think in Mississippi, I know in several of the states that we work in. So you may only be able to get a 3-month supply of tea in Mississippi. With estrogen, it's a little bit easier and you can get a 6-month supply often, but talk to your provider about that and get your prescriptions refilled as quickly as you can. If you are looking for a provider, there are a couple of really great resource guides for you. One is the transprogram.org on their resources page. You can check that out for Mississippi specific resources, especially if you are looking to get care out of state, if that feels like, something that's going to be important for you. If this passes, you can go ahead and have some conversations with your current care provider about that. Some places out of state where people in Mississippi have had good luck in finding care include Memphis, New Orleans, and Birmingham. And yeah, I saw that in the chat. We can drop links to the resource guides in the chat too. So I'll do that as well. So those are 3 places where folks have had a lot of success with that. There is another resource guide that we maintain at the Campaign for Southern Equality. You can access at transinthesouth.org. That'll list some resources in Mississippi and also resources in other states. And then if you need additional resources or support or have questions and want to reach out to us after this webinar, you can email us at mississippiresources@southern-equality.org. And we'll be checking that email and doing our best to respond and get you connected with the care that you need or the support that you need. So, and don't forget to take care of yourselves and each other and lean in. And you don't have to do it alone, even though I know this is a really scary time right now. But I'm going to stop running my mouth and throw things back over to Jensen.
Sure. Thank you, Ivy. That's great information there. Another step that folks can take is to apply for assistance. There is financial assistance available right now through the Rainbow Mutual Aid Fund, and I'm going to pass this off to Noelle to speak on that briefly.
Hey, yeah, so Mississippi Rising Coalition has the Rainbow Mutual Aid Fund, and it's available statewide to the trans community. And these funds can help cover the cost of your gender affirming healthcare. They can include your travel expenses out of state if that's necessary, mental health care, binders, prescriptions, consultation fees. So it covers a wide array, and there should be a link in the resource guide for the application to apply.
That's great. Thank you so much, Noelle. And I'm not sure that we said this out loud. I saw Adam posted in the chat at 4:16. So if y'all missed it, we put together a resource guide in HB 1125 specific resource guide. So pretty much what we're sharing here today with you can be summed up, and you will find resources in there, of course. So check that out, and we will send it out via email, I believe, as well. Okay, I believe we don't have Spectrum, the other clinic, with us right now.
I saw Lee on for a second. Is Lee still there?
Lee was on, yeah.
I'm here.
Do we have Lee? Hey, we have Lee.
Hey.
Lee, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I think they covered it really well. Just one thing is, if someone's in Mississippi and they use an out-of-state provider that prescribes medication to Mississippi, that's illegal. So you have to be outside of Mississippi. Stacy and I were discussing it. If you are outside of Mississippi and you have the medicine in Mississippi, that may open up some issues. For instance, a teacher could report a patient that appears to be, transitioning. So I'd be really careful. I mean, I hate to say something like that, but I definitely don't want any patients to come to harm if they, obtain medication illegally.
So I have a question. If they live in North Mississippi, for instance, and they come to Memphis to a hormone doctor and they get medicine, and that doctor calls it into a pharmacy that is also in Memphis, and they go get that medicine in Memphis and then go back to Mississippi, are they going to get in trouble that way?
I'm definitely going to answer that question, but unfortunately the answer is we don't know. So because of the framing of the bill, in other contexts, like we're obviously looking to abortion providers and systems that have been set up in those same kinds of situations. An abortion procedure is something that you can leave, have the procedure entirely out of state and come back. And medication in this context is obviously different. So the case law that we have on aiding and abetting has said that you can even say in a state, I encourage you to obtain this service in this state where it's legal. And the context of like bringing something back with you, I do not know the answer to that. So I cannot give any, like, this is not legal advice in the first place, but I cannot answer whether or not that is permissible and whether or not that's permitted. But we are working on figuring out what we think is and is not okay. And if there's a possibility of putting together something in the Know Your Rights context, we'll let people know if that's something that we can provide. But it's a terrible bill for many reasons. And one of them is they're just mapping on to a context that they don't know anything about. The legislators, I mean.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And, you know, just to keep in mind that this is a really evolving area of law, and that all that we have right now is the bill that is in front of us and the language that's in front of us. There is specific language that it is prohibited under that law to administer or prescribe. But that would apply to providers themselves. So in terms of the aid and abetting language, there are definitely open questions there, and you know, some shifting things in the courts. But in terms of like what the law physically says, it prohibits administering and prescribing this care by providers. So that is just something to keep in mind when you're determining your own family's kind of level of like risk tolerance here.
Yeah, that's valid to say. Thank you for sharing that, Adam. And I think even the senators who were discussing this bill in committee, they were back and forth on this pretty much the same question here. And anybody can go to YouTube and watch it for themselves. But you know, you had senators saying pretty much folks could go out of state and get whatever they need. And then you had senators kind of pushing back on that. So there was a back and forth there. I think clarity is what we'll be seeking. And as soon as we have more clarity, of course, we'll share it with the community. Okay, so I think this would be a good time to talk about a few other methods of support that we have available. And one of which is support groups. I know there are a variety of organizations that organize and lead support groups around the state. I can tell you about the ones that the trans program spearheads, and that's the Trans Tuesday support call every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. via Zoom. That's an 18+ call. We also have the Trans 2.0 support call. That's going to be ages 13 to 20. And so folks heavily impacted by this bill, and that's on the last Thursday of every month. And then we also have the transparent support call for parents and caregivers of trans people. And that is the second to last Thursday of every month. And I'm sure you won't remember this, but you can find this information on Facebook. Just check out Trans Program on Facebook or transprogram.org on our website. I'm going to go ahead and pass this now to Ivy to talk a little bit about another initiative that we are putting together as it relates to support.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jensen. At the Campaign for Southern Equality, we have a really excellent director of healing and resilience who has a lot of experience doing workshops and around healing and somatics and the way that we hold trauma and fear and all of that in our bodies and the way that that impacts us. So we are working on putting together a free workshop or two for the community in Mississippi that he'll be leading for us. So be on the lookout for more information about that as that starts to come together. We have contact information for folks here, so we'll be sure to send out that stuff whenever we have dates set for those things. But just know that there are more healing resources in the pipeline coming your way, and we are holding you all in love. I'll throw things back over to Jensen.
Awesome. Yes, I'm playing host the whole way through. All right. So now we'd like to mention a few different upcoming activities. Some are in the works or, action items. And to tell us a little bit about that, we will pass it to Mickey with the Spectrum Center.
Thanks, Jensen. Thanks, everyone. So hi, everybody. A lot of you have been asking what we can do to get involved. We got a few things coming up. So if you are interested, or if someone you know is interested in learning more about what gender affirming medical care is, what it actually is, and what it looks like in the state of Mississippi, the Spectrum Center and partners will be hosting an educational panel-based webinar with medical providers and people of trans experience. That's tentatively planned for this upcoming Monday, February 6th, but keep an eye on our social medias for more details. The coalition represented here is also planning a rally/protest at the Capitol in Jackson for next Thursday, February 9th. We don't have a lot more detail than that at this time, but information about it will go up on all of these organizations' social medias. They will also be sending out action alerts, so keep an eye on your inboxes. A handful of organizations, including the Spectrum Center, the Immigrant Alliance, and Mississippi Rising Coalition, will be offering carpooling and transportation support. From Hattiesburg, the Delta, and the coast. There may be a few more localities where we can get transportation support. So if you need that, please reach out and let us know. If you're looking for more opportunities and ways to get involved beyond that, follow all of the organizations listed on this program. If you have capacity to volunteer or get involved behind the scenes, please do reach out. We can always use more hands and heads. Other than that, and perhaps most importantly, please just continue to engage with the community and with the people in your area, with the leaders and the trans folks that you know. It's really important that we stick together and stay connected and support each other at this time. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Mickey. That was great. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we are at the point in our town hall where I'm going to repeat everything I said pretty much at the top of this call, but in reverse. So we are going to stop recording. And at this time, if you would like to, if you hid your face earlier,